I have just a half sheet of mixed media paper, and then I just brought out my most simple supplies. This is like a Crayola 16 color pan watercolor set that's like $3-ish. This is something I got at Michael's that just has a million colors in it. It's very well loved and used. And I cut a paper in half so, you know, my kids could have, we just share the paper so we're not overusing all the paper. I'm going to come, this is also just a craft brush, and I'm going to be painting this bunny in brown. I'll use mostly my Crayola, I think. So I'm going to come about halfway onto the paper and make this upside down U for the top of my bunny's head, and then come down with a semi like straightish yet also curvy line, if that makes any sense. I just want to curve it out a little bit more. There we go. Make that a little bit more thick. But basically, this should be like quick, easy, and fun. So I'm going to come on this side. I'm going to add a tiny bit of curve to that line. It's going to become more curvy down here. And now my bunny has 2 ears. I do think this ear should be wider also. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that line out a little bit thicker. Okay? So basically, I'm just going to start by almost drawing the bunny by using my watercolor. So here I'm going to make this line come in on the outside of the ear, coming in like this. That's going to leave a spot for her little eyes. And then these big round cheeks are coming out, and so I'm just curving the shape of it with my brush. I'm probably picking up a little bit more brown, curving out the shape for these chubby bunny cheeks, and just circling around like this. And hopefully, like, anyone can do this project. It's certainly not super complicated and or very detailed. It should be pretty basic. And bringing out these shoulders, just kind of like the body of the bunny. And then what I'm doing is, like, because I have that line sort of dark on the end, I can bring, without very much paint on my brush, I'm just going to have like a teeny tiny bit, I can draw that paint out and it gets softer. The color gets less intense. I didn't really make my line here very dark in the first place, which I do kind of want the outside to be the dark part, and then draw that paint in. And this should do 2 things. One, it is making that paint get lighter and lighter as it draws away from the outside of my bunny. And also, since I'm not like coming back in with some water, it helps like make this area a little, I'm kind of dry brushing this area. It gives it that fur effect. And then also this area is going to be a little bit more dry, because for this video, we're not having the dry time. We're not going to take a break between layers. We're just going to go in and do the best we can. So it's mostly wet on dry. And then I want a little bit of this hair to be, but I'm just going to tap that in really kind of randomly so it looks a little bit more like hair texture, or fur texture, I should say. And then move on to the next area. So this part of the body should be sort of drying a little bit, and then that will help when I come back in and add some details. They won't be very wet. So same thing on the cheeks. I'm just gonna pull out that color, soften up that edge a little bit. I have barely any color and a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm just rounding out this cheek area, but leaving this center dry and white. Might bring that in just a tiny bit more. That's going to turn into like nose and whiskers, so I want that to get a head start on drying as well. And now back up into this forehead area. I'm going to get a little bit of brown on my brush and pull it down from the forehead. That's definitely more wet. And just add in, pull in this color coming down. I do want to add just like a few wispy fur details up there on the forehead, not just have it be like this straight line. And now I'm pulling it down, and from the sides as well, up towards the ears, pulling this watercolor over. softening up those lines a little bit where I basically drew the bunny. And then I might tap in just a little bit extra brown up here in the forehead as well, coming straight in between where the eyes are going to end up being, and just kind of making that a little bit more dominant there in the center of the forehead. All right, so now about the ears. I think before I add more brown to the ears, I'm going to go ahead and pick up a little bit of red. I want the ears to be pink in the middle, but I don't have a pink here in my Crayola set. I could switch over to my other set, but I'm just going to challenge myself to stick with Crayola on this one. Tried and true. Inside the center of the ear with a watered down red that will have this pink look to it, I'm going to pull down that pink center right in the middle. And then I'll let that dry for a second while I move on, and then come in and add more brown. So I will probably leave a tiny bit of white there, like I'm bringing that really close. Oops, I'm touching my brown, that's fine. And just bringing in this red / pink in the center. Hopefully, let's see, I'm pretty much ready for my nose since I have pink on the white area. And make this little upside down triangle. Not want it to be like 100% a triangle, right? But it's a triangular in shape. I'm just tapping in that pink color and leaving that right there. I think I've left these areas to get a little bit more dry. This little spot is biting me just a tiny bit, so I'm going to soften that up a little. All right. Yeah. I mean, the cheeks are and then while I let this nose kind of have a chance to dry, in with a little bit of, well, I do want to add some more brown here in my ears. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of brown and soften up some of those lines that we started with. Oops, not enough water. If your paint is ever not flowing the way that you want it to, that's a water issue. So I'm coming in and just softening up the line that I originally drew, but also not getting super, super close. I mean, here I touched the red. I did just kind of want a little bit of white highlight. Pulling that towards the pink. And I do that on the other side as well, where I just come down and just blend up that little line here that I got. That is looking very wet. Oh, I'm coming right up to my pink. I was not being careful there. You know what? That happens sometimes. And I can come in with my paper towel that I use to blot and just kind of soak up some of that. There we go. I got a little too much of my pink soaked up in there too, but okay. I can just add it back in. Okay, so I'm going to come down and start adding some of my black details. I'm just going to add a little bit of black fur right in this area. I want to add a little bit more water to my black and just add some fur here on the chest area. Just a tiny bit. I'm just coming in and like tapping in a little black wherever I feel like it. Not really a rhyme or a reason. Just in here, a little bit at the base of the ears, and that's a pretty wet area, so I don't mind that it's wet because it kind of adds to this like blending of the fur. But I'm mindful that it's wet so that I can avoid making a big mess, right? So I just should have a tiny bit of black because it's nice and wet, and I don't want it to necessarily like bleed too much. And coming in on these cheeks and adding a little bit of like black shadow there. I'm going to soften that line a little bit with just a barely wet brush. And I can see where I thought I was fixing my cheeks. I'm not super in love with how I actually did fix it. So adding a little bit of brown back in. Some of these things can just be touched up when it's all the way dry. I see that my black is fading nicely here. And I'm going to come in right on the tip of my brush to create some whiskers. So I have this black line that's going to come. Ooh, this brush is driving me crazy. I probably should have grabbed a different one. It's got like just this one random nylon bristle that's coming down and not letting me be as precise as I want to. All right, so I have this black V here. I'm coming down into a upside down V right below it. And his little mouth or her little mouth. All right, just like that. And then right in this cheek area, I'm going to stipple on just a few little dots where those whiskers will come from. And then if I have a nice dry area up here, I'm going to start on the eyes. So I'm going to come very, very close to my brown there and make a little narrow oval. It's not like super narrow, it's a nice big eye here. And then fill in also the center, the little iris here. So I did this on the last bunny I did, and I liked the effect. We'll see how it turns out this time. I'm using different paints. So looks like this bunny is very surprised about something. Coming down on the other side to make my oval as well. It would be nice if the eyes were right about the same size. We'll see what I come up with. And then putting that iris here right in the center. And then last time I kind of added this little gray area here where I pulled down just a little bit more black right in here. So you still kind of see like the iris, but also have all this color right there. All right. And now I think she could use some eyelashes, he or she. You get to decide about your own bunny. Again, this brush is driving me crazy, but I'm committed. I'm committed. I'm pulling, oh, that was too wet. So I can see right away that my brush is too wet because I am not pulling the lines quite as narrow as I'd like to. So I am going to switch brushes. How many times can I complain about this? I've switched over to this little dagger brush and adding a few short lashes. Maybe you're good with that and you want to stop there. But then I'm going to add some longer lashes coming up. I need to pick up a little bit more black paint here and make sure that's not super, super wet. I'm going to bring some longer lashes up. Oops. Sorry, your lash came right into your eyeball. That hurts. Okay, and then the same thing with whiskers. I'm going to pull these whiskers straight across the cheek, nice and narrow. There we go.